9, guys, please turn to page 9, and you're going to find on page 9 that there are 4 periods, fortnight periods with the normal hours stated there and the overtime. Please be mindful that for the 3rd and 4th period of this fortnight, there is no overtime. So you must be mindful of that when you're doing your planning. Then about Mr. Koza, he earns 300 rands per hour. And he worked 80 hours, which is the normal hours that a person works. Whereas you look at the next week, 28th, next period is 80 hours. But on the 11th, only worked 75 hours. And on the 25th, worked exactly 80 hours for that 2 weeks. So 40 hours per week. That 2 weeks there makes it a fortnight. 40 and 40 becomes 80. Are we good? Are you okay so far? If you look at your travel allowance of 2,700 rands per month, he receives the travel expense, which is a mistake in the question paper. It should be the travel allowance, right? It says it should be read as he receives the travel allowance on the 28th of March and on the 25th of April. Now, I want you to see the mistakes in the question paper also. Have you noticed that on 1.6 on number 8, it says transaction for November 2023 and December 2023 and January 2024. Those are not correct. We are not doing January 2024. Neither are we doing November 2023. Neither are we doing, are you understanding what I'm trying to tell you there? That is an error on that question paper. It's not supposed to be here. I'm going to highlight to you to show you that there is no November, there is no December, and there is no January here in this paper here. There is no such thing as that. Are you hearing me, guys? So, guys, when you are in an exam room, there will be things that you have all the right to mention, and there are things that, yes, it is your error, and this is what I'm trying to tell you. You must be careful. This is not your error. Okay, so guys, what I want to talk about is the next part here now is that this is the wrong word, expense. It should have been travel allowance, correct? Are you following me? It's just like it is there, it's a travel allowance. Now, what is important is your planning. Now, you don't have much space, so I'm going to quickly call this Kosa, right? And I'm going to quickly draw up some planning for you. What is the code? What is the code for the normal working time, the normal salary? What is the code? The hourly wage that this Mr. Koza earns. What is the code? 5002. Are you with me, guys? That is for your normal income. You following me now? Right? The normal 80 hours. So if you want, on your question paper, you can write down, let's do that right now as we speak. You will write here that the code for this here is 5002. Code 5002. You got it? So you're doing some planning. Okay? And you don't need to write it for each fortnight. You know that's the code. It's going to help you when you capture it. Right? What is the code for overtime? Can you check for me? What is the code for overtime? Is it 5321? So you can quickly write the code. You don't have to even write the word code, but you could write 5321. Let's capture that information there on this question now. You're writing it down. This is part of your planning. You know you want to get a high mark, so you have to really work for it. And the same applies for the next one. Now, I don't need to write it down, but for simplicity, we'll just capture it, right? Because we may have an issue. Right, let's get it right, 5321. Okay, but you don't need to repeat because time is of the essence, especially in an exam situation. So we are now covered with the coding for those 2 days. If you wish, you could immediately go and capture the same codes for Mr. Masuku, which we can do now, 5002, and you can capture the overtime here, which is going to be code 5321. I'm going to stop stating this code from now on. There's no need for me to write code. You know 5 is a code, 5,321 is a code for overtime. You got it? And you know where you got that from, page 7, correct? 5321. Okay, let's look at the travel expense. What is the code for the travel expense? What is the code for travel expense? I want to write that down. What is the code? 5 for travel expense. What is it? 55. I want to talk about this one here, this code here. 5500, you said. Okay, let's look at it now, right? Travel expense, like I mentioned to you, in this instance here, right? It should be viewed as a travel allowance, right? Can you see there? Are you with me, guys? It should be viewed as a travel allowance, right? So what code are we going to use? 5500, right? So 5500, it's going to give us a little of an issue later. We'll see how it's going to go. 55 code 5500, correct? Right. Now I want to talk about this code here, 5500, reimbursable travel allowance. Okay. First of all, it says they receives a travel allowance. Then it also says it's a travel expense. So there's a contradiction there in that. Having said that, I want you now to work around that it's a travel expense. Right? It is a travel expense. Yes. Yes, you may. If you need to go something urgent, please inform reception on your way out. Right. Guys, I want to tell you about the next code when it comes to travel expense. If you omit this code 6025, you will have a problem. Your work will not be printed. You must always capture these two codes. When you've got a travel expense, right? It's 5500. You must put in the taxable benefit of that, which is 6025. That is why you'll find on page 8, it says the print on payslip must be on travel expense 6025. So make sure that you capture both codes when you're capturing the travel expense for Mr. Kosa. Are we good with that one day? Yes? Are we good? Are you understanding it? So it's code 6025. You must capture that code, those two codes. I'm now done with the travel expenses. However, you will need to remember when you must capture this travel expense. It was not going to be applicable. It's not applicable for all periods. Look at the question paper, what it says there. It receives on the 28th of March. That there is the second fortnight in March. Do you understand me? It's the second fortnight. So it will not be period 1. It will be captured on period 2. Period 2. Do you think you understand what I'm trying to tell you here? Because it's only paid per month. So you have to capture the amount of 2,700 rands on period 2 only. and not on period 1. Got it? And then you're going to capture that same amount on period, you tell me, period 4. And that's amount of 2700. So be mindful of that. It's short planning, but it's going to be effective. And you don't make a mistake on that, because you're going to get 2,700 per month, and you only get it on period 2 and period 4, the second fortnight for the month. Got it? Let's look at the next one. It says there, contributes towards a pension fund. What is the code for pension fund? I'm going to put here PF, right? What is the code for pension fund? What is the code for pension fund? You have to be careful of that. You see, it says contributes. It really means both employer and employee. So you have to capture both 7002 and you'll have to capture 9002. See? Now you don't need to capture amounts there, because if you look at the question paper on page 8, you're going to find that where it says 7002, you need to set up on the transactions 7.5%. And for 9002, you also will have to set up that percentage. Then the computer does the calculations on your behalf. You just capture that percentage. And when you're doing the transaction, you capture these two codes, 7002 and 9002. Are you okay? Yes? Are you fine? Any queries about the pension fund? Let's look at the telephone allowance. What code is for the telephone allowance? Telephone? What is the code that we need to use? 5720. Now, here's the situation that we need to work around. It says 13,000 per annum. So you have to take your figure of 13,000 and you have to divide it by per annum. 13,000 per annum. Yes? We are doing a fortnight here now. We are doing a fortnight. And it says, and it doesn't tell you when to pay, but it just tells you per annum it's 13,000 for the whole year. So you have to break in per fortnight, correct? Every 2 weeks. So what will you divide that 13,000 by? Let's assume it was monthly. What would you divide by? 12. If it was weekly, what would you divide by? 52. 52 weeks in a year. If it's fortnightly, half of 52 is, half of 52 is 26. So you'll divide by 26. Because there are 26 fortnights in the year. Making sense? And that will give you a figure of, if you did your calculations on board calculator, it'll be 500 rands per fortnight. Per fortnight. Make sense? Getting the idea? Yes, guys? So that's your telephone. So a bit of planning does help, and you are then be in a position to capture easily. What is the next bullet to worry about now? A training refund. What is the code for training refund? What is the code for training refund? Code. Say it again. So you're going to use code 505050, correct? And which period will you put that figure in? Which period will you capture? Not in period? Correct, period 3. Got it? Because it says there on the 11th of April, and you know 11th of April is period 3. In other words, the third fortnight, correct? Okay, let's look at the last bullet there, what it says there. On the 11th of April, he started saving an amount of 700 rands per fortnight. He has already saved up to 2,800 rands. So what will be the code for savings? What is the code for savings? The code 8170, correct? You're now going to put in the figure 2,800 rands saved to date, right? And you will put in 700 rands per fortnight. But here's the problem. You will only begin in period, you tell me, period, fortnight, period, 3 and 4. Are you following? So it's only applicable for period 3 and period 4. Makes sense to you? Because he only started saving on the 11th of April. Have you got that? Right. Now, there is one thing that we need to talk about, and you will notice that, which is very important. That is why I mentioned to you, planning is important now when it comes to these transactions. There's something that's missing, and no mention of it is on those bullets there. There's no mention of it. What you will notice is that an omission of medical aid has occurred. It is your responsibility to capture medical aid. The code for medical aid is going to be 8090 for the employee, and medical aid, the code will be for the employer contribution will be 9090, and that is from the employer. And the amounts, now you must work them out. If you look at Mr. Koza, Mr. Koza has on page 4 of that question paper, Mr. Koza has 2 dependents. However, on page 5, it says 3 beneficiaries. So you use 3 beneficiaries, go to page 8 and look at the information. It talks about member plus dependents. So Mr. Koza will fall under member plus 2 dependents, which makes the total number of 3 beneficiaries. You understand? Do you hear me? Member plus 2 dependents will make it 3 beneficiaries in this particular medical aid. So the employee will contribute 600 rands and the employer will contribute, what did we agree on? 600 times 80%, correct? And that will give you a figure of 480 rands. That is a contribution from the employer. Right. Now, are you understanding about the 600 rands? Member plus 2 dependents. Another code that's not stated, but you are expected to know that it must be captured, because on page 8, on the second to last line. The last bullet says bonus accrual must appear on all payslips. So the code 9142 must appear. 9142 must be captured also. Now, what I'm trying to explain to you, and you'll understand it as we do the next one, is that there are certain codes that are not stated on page 9 clearly. You are expected to know and to read in that short time you have in an exam room that you need to capture medical aid and you need to capture your the figure for the 9142 for the bonus accrual. Okay. I will take questions later. I want you now to focus on Mr. Masuku. Let us focus on Mr. Masuku and we'll get an idea about how Mr. Masuku is and what is going on now on how to capture. Let's look at Mr. Masuku. You are familiar with the codes 5002 and 5321, correct? One is the hourly wage and one is the overtime, correct? Now look at the next one. It says receives a reimbursable travel expense of $750 per fortnight. He will start the travel allowance. He will start the travel allowance on the 11th of April. What they're saying to you is that he will be getting the travel expense every fortnight, but it will start on the 11th of April. So which period are we talking about? Period 3 and 4. Periods 3 and period 4, right? So let's go now down and capture the codes. What is that? What are the code? What are the codes for reimbursable travel allowance? What is the code number? 5500. And remember I told you, you must also capture the code 6025. You recall, right? But it's for periods, what? Periods 4 and periods 3 and 4 only. Okay? The second bullet contributes towards a pension fund 7002 and 9002. Okay, we understood that, right? The third bullet is receives an telephone allowance per annum. What is the code for telephone allowance? Pension fund, telephone allowance. Code 5720. And what is going to be the amount? 12,350 divided by 26. And that will give you how much? 475 rands. Right? We have completed the 3 codes. The 3 bullets. However, it still doesn't end there because we will now need to capture the medical aid. You remember we talked about the medical aid. You recall. So we now go and capture the medical aid. You'll need to go and check. You'll need to go and check for the medical aid. What is the amount that the employer will deduct from Mr. Masuku's salary, 8090. You'll need to look. You are guided by his dependents, correct? Mr. Masuku has 3 dependents. Am I right? So 3, go to your page 8 question paper. Member plus 3 dependents is how much? 650 rands. Are you following? And what is 650 times 80%? Work that out. How much? 520. Is that correct? How do you check it? If you so wish, on your keyboard there, you're going to find, when you open your payroll, you click on F9, and that gives you the onboard calculator. Are you following me? So that's how you'll get 520 rands. And the last code that you must enter will be code 9142, correct? Must be captured. You recall that one there, what I talked about. Okay, that is really what needs to be captured. And it's part of the planning process when you are working with fortnightly or any exercise on payroll. You need to do some planning. So it will take a bit of time. But when you get your planning right, then you know everything else will follow suit. Okay, now let us spend some moments. Let us discuss some of your concerns that you have about Mr. Koza or Mr. Masuku, and I will address it with you. What are some of your queries that you have? I will open the floor to questions. The link to all these workings that I've worked out for you will be on the website. So please make sure that you subscribe and ensure that you download, and you can then work at your leisure. Thank you.